We're the FAA, and we're here to help you. Is that a true statement? Well, stick around. I'll give you my thoughts on the matter. What do you think? Pretty cool, right? Yeah, my lovely wife gave this to me for Christmas. It's important for a couple of reasons. Number one, I've been a passionate motorcyclist for over 50 years. Been fortunate enough to travel the world and see a lot of things. But the graphic on this helmet represents the Isle of Man TT. This is a race that's been run since 1907 on this little tiny island country that lies between England and Ireland. It's run over a 37-mile course up through the mountains, surrounded by nothing but brick and stone walls. Highly dangerous race, maybe most dangerous in the world. But the thing about it is that it represents the country real well. The three legs are the flag of the country. And if you look to the back of the helmet, you can actually see the road course with some of the important corners in it. Now, unfortunately, for June of 2020, they had to stop the race because of the pandemic, and they've canceled it again for this year. So sad times, but I'll enjoy the helmet. Thanks so much to my wife. We have a lot to talk about today, particularly remote ID. Now, I was a little snarky to begin with in the opening of this vlog, but the truth of the matter is, in order for the drone industry to grow, we need to find a safe way of integrating drones into the national airspace. Now, this particular ruling that the FAA came out with, while not perfect, is a good framework for us to start with. It needs expansion, it needs detail, but I think it's a good starting point. So let's move on from there. Now, this ruling is the result of 2 years of study. Back in December of 2019, the FAA put out a proposed rule for drone pilots, and they elicited comments from the general public and manufacturers. They received over 53,000 comments. And while a lot of people complain how big this document is, fact is they addressed most every topic that was brought up in these comments and gave their rationale for why they either accepted it or rejected it. So kudos on their part. So what is remote ID? Well, the FAA requires all aircraft to broadcast certain information: their identity, their location, their altitude, their velocity, and for drones, even the control station location. And that's been a big point of contention here over the last couple of weeks on a lot of the discussions I've read. And the concern is there's security issues about knowing where the control station is. Well, let's think about that for a second. Me personally, when I'm out flying my drone, I always fly within line of sight so I can see my drone. So if anybody else can see my drone, they probably can see me too. So I don't see that as an issue. People like building inspectors, videographers, wedding photographers, I don't see this as an issue for them either. Where it may be a concern is when we move into beyond visual line of sight. For pipeline surveys, power lines, anything that's far distance away. UPS, Amazon, they start delivering packages, they don't know where it's coming from there. So those may be some legitimate concerns, and I'd like to know your input. Is having the location of the control station a problem for you? And also, anybody with a smartphone and an app can probably monitor this information and see where we are taking off from. So it may not be a good thing there. So how do we comply? Well, there are 3 ways. The first is to buy a drone that's got this module already built into it. That way it broadcasts automatically. Second way is to buy an aftermarket module, which will be available in the near future. Now, the FAA estimates that's going to cost us about $50 a piece. I don't think that's horrible. You know, for a person in business, I don't think $50 is a big deal. Plus the fact, if you've got a whole fleet of drones like we do, I only need to buy one module and then I can swap it between drones. So that's a pretty good deal too. And the third one is something called a FRIA. This is the FAA recognized location for drones to fly. Now that's kind of open-ended. Right now you have to apply for that area, and I don't know where that area is going to be. I mean, if you live on a farm 10 miles from the nearest airport, can you get one of those? I think we need some more clarification on that. But that's the 3 ways that we can use to comply with this new policy. The other thing they addressed was operations over people. You know, currently under Part 107, we're not allowed to fly over anyone who's not involved in the project. I mean, the pilot, the visual observer, and so on. This allows us to do it, but establishes 4 categories. Now, I won't go into the categories today here, but I will mention one thing. The one thing the document says was the aircraft should contain no rotating exposed parts that could cause lacerations. Well, we got 4 rotors, 4 blades. That could cause lacerations, right? So they weren't really clear on what to do about that, but my idea is if you've got a cage or prop guards or something like that, to minimize the chance of someone being cut by the blades, that might satisfy this part. Now, in past waivers, they've talked about parachutes being required to fly over people, but that was not mentioned in this documentation. Now, for night operations, they are going to allow us to do that, but our pilot in command must take special training that includes nighttime operation information. The pilot in command must complete either an updated initial test or an updated recurrent test that includes a module on nighttime operations. And just like before, the drone must have anti-collision lights visible for at least 3 statute miles. There's no change on that. But have you ever thought about how you're going to land your drone after dark? Can't see anything, can you? Well, the cool thing about DJI is when they came out with the Mavic 2 Pro series, they added landing lights. So now if you set it to auto mode, when it gets down 3 or 4 feet off the ground, you got these landing lights that come on and give you a nice square lighted pattern that you can land on the ground. Really cool idea, and they were thinking ahead on that. And as far as the knowledge test goes, we got a surprise here. They have taken away the requirement for a 24-month recurrent knowledge test and replaced it with a 24-month recurrent training. The difference there is it's going to be an online course that includes a nighttime operation module, and the cost will be 0. So that's a good thing for us. So now your next question is when do these go into effect? Well, pretty easy here. If we look at the remote ID, which is the big one, manufacturers have 18 months to comply, meaning within 18 months they'll start selling drones that are already equipped with this module. But for pilots like us that already own our own drones, we have 30 months to comply with that. And these dates are based on when it's actually filed with the Federal Register, and we don't know the exact date on that. So we've got basically 2.5 years before we have to worry about that. And for the flights over people, it's 60 days after publication in the Federal Register, and nighttime operations is also 60 days. So FAA is moving forward. I know it's been a slow process, but they are actively trying to get us involved into the national airspace and incorporate us into a safe manner. So these are good things. Let me have your comments if you agree or disagree, and we can discuss this further in a later vlog. I hope you're still enjoying these vlogs, and if you are, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe down below. That way I can let you know when I'm publishing future videos. Still plan to do it every Tuesday, but I may do some more often than that. And if you feel like it, share it with your friends. That would be greatly appreciated. And of course, each week I end this vlog with a photo or a video taken from a drone. This week, the pictures come from the Caribbean from one of my former students. Thank you, Vesco. I appreciate the input. And if you want me to feature one of your videos or photos in a future vlog series, send it to me. I'll be happy to include it. And thank you for watching.